Progress 127.
Welcome back to the show. Dean Obidala, Monday, August 5th. Jamira Burley's here, activist. She was a National Deputy Millennial Vote Director for Hillary and managed gun violence and criminal justice initiatives at MC International. Jamira, it's over.
The world
America's
is over.
done. It's all. Jamira was just telling me, spend your 401k, folks. There's nothing to save for. There's not going to be a future. And I told you before you came in, I'm like, it's so interesting. Whenever Jamira's on, there's issues about race. And that's not where we have her book. But I'm like, it's kind of odd. Then I realized every day with Trump, there are issues about race. Like, you can come on tomorrow. There'll be a new one. Yeah. Or 3 days from now, there'll be a new one. This is the hyper-racial world we live in. And whoever said we were in a post-racial world after Obama I don't know what to say. That was just the stupidest thing ever. Remember, there were people right over Obama, we're post-racial America. Yeah. I'm like, why would anyone even say that? That didn't make sense to me. I'm like, okay, it sounds nice. I don't know what to say. It's not.
But it did, yeah. When people said that, I was just like, they're clearly not understanding like systematic racism, and then also the laws and policies that have been in place for generations. And just because you elect a black man to lead an institution that is inherently racist does not mean that it changes overnight. They said that literally the day after he got elected. I'm
it's
like, he hasn't even done anything.
Racism being done was like the right wing dream of what's going on. We're gonna take a few. Look, we didn't get to take a lot of calls tonight, and people are very. And I've been passionate about what's going on. I want to chat about it. We will take some calls. I want to speak to you though first about it. What is your? I want to make one comment though at the outset here and see what you think. There was someone on, and I didn't get to his call on time. He called before. He's a nice guy. Mm-hmm. I mean, we may disagree, but it's fine. But others have said this to me as well, that I talk about race a lot in this show. And I say it because issues come up. But I also tell them, to me, healthcare touches all of us, right? Climate change touches us. But racism and bigotry of Donald Trump touches me just the same, and my community. Yeah. You know, we've had, while it wasn't in America, in New Zealand, a guy walked into a mosque and killed 50 people. Well, he was still espousing these same views of Trump. You know, there's been heightened security at mosques and Muslim community centers around the country. This is a real scary time. This is palpable fear that's going on. And that's not normal. You have to take your kids to a Muslim community center event, and you have to worry about a gunman coming in and killing them because Trump has made them think they're somehow invaders, and especially when he's going after Congressman Omar and Rashida Tlaib, especially Omar, to send her back. Yeah. And this is where we live in. So to me, it's just as important of a policy because it means everything. It's not a discussion on left, right, or how far do we go on policy. It's life or death. It
is. And I think what most people need to understand, it's not about like us pulling the race card because it's provocative, it's sexy, it's like it gets the hearts pumping. Is the reality is that every single issue you look at, not even just in America, but around the world, it impacts people of color very differently, right? Oftentimes those who are at the margin of our society are impacted at the most extreme levels of any different problem that you look at our society. So you look at healthcare, you look at economic development, you look at housing, all of them oftentimes impacts people of color more. So you have to root people of color at the center, because if you can solve the most marginalized being impacted by an issue, it trickles up versus the trickle down effect. And I think what's truly disturbing about this rhetoric and this time that we're in, specifically for how people of color, the Muslim community, Latinos and African Americans are being targeted by the Trump administration, is that folks are literally having conversations with their children before they leave the house because their fear that they're not going to make it home safely, right? Whether they're going to the movie theater, whether they're going to school, or whether they're just walking down the street. And so we're in a time where folks feel like their communities and their cities are now war zones. And if you look at the data, we've lost more individuals to gun violence in the last decade to any war that we fought. That's disgusting.
And people don't talk about, like, these horrific shootings get press, and of course they should. But every day, about 30 Americans are killed by gun violence. Yep. Every day, 5 to 8 children and teens are killed.
And 100,000 are just injured. No one talks about that. 100,000 people are injured with guns.
And you have suicide of around 60 a day by gun, accidental death. Bring it close to 100 people die a day involving a gun. And these numbers can come down. They'll never go away. We have too many guns. It's not about having angry people. We have just too many guns. There's always going to be, and people will be like, oh, how can you reduce that? Well, waiting periods. Studies have shown states that have like 3 or 5 day waiting periods suicide rates have come down a little bit because people have to wait to get the gun. And maybe that moment of complete desperation passes, or they get help in between. This is what you need if you want to save lives. But if you don't care about saving lives, then just leave it the way it is. Everyone's acceptable losses. Just live it where it is.
Yeah, and then it's the conversation of folks who are like, well, we want to solve things, but yet when we talk about healthcare is in a silo, as if healthcare and mental health do not go hand in hand. So if you want to prevent people from either shooting other people and or killing themselves, we have to ensure that there is quality healthcare for people to get access to, that where they can seek mental health.
And today, Donald Trump tried to intersect mental illness. In fact, I want to play, I try not to make too many clips of him, but I want to play this as a short clip. Here's clip number 6, Matt, from earlier today.
The internet has provided a dangerous avenue to radicalize disturbed minds and perform demented acts. We must shine light on the dark recesses of the internet and stop mass murders before they start. We must reform our mental health laws to better identify mentally disturbed individuals who may commit acts of violence and make sure those people not only get treatment, but when necessary, involuntary confinement. Mental illness and hatred pulls the trigger, not the gun.
So mental illness and hatred, intertwining them, white supremacy. And I wrote an article for CNN that's now just got published a short time ago. It's on Twitter. If you're interested, at Dino Bidala. I'll post on Facebook.com/Dean of Radio, where I talk about what he talked about there. And the idea that, and I quote the prosecutor in the case with James Fields, who killed Heather Heyer. And he just said in June, he was sentenced, this guy. And he said, this was calculated, it was cold-blooded, it was motivated by this deep-seated racial animus. That's what white supremacy is. It's not, are there mentally ill people out there? Yeah. White supremacists, this is cold, it's calculated, they know what they're doing, they have a goal. Look at the shooter in El Paso. He went in with the ear. He had the military-grade ear protection because he knew the concussion sound in an enclosed space was going to cause maybe ear pain. He had it looked like he had goggles in the picture I saw. An extra magazine. He drove 10 hours to a border facility. This is not mental illness. This is cold calculation. That's what white supremacy is.
And these individuals are creating manifestos that actually contributes Donald Trump. Oftentimes, is quoting him in a lot of his ideologies. So it's not like these people are quoting video games and things that they find on the internet, unless what they find on the internet is actually Trump's rhetoric that he continues to put forward. And I think the fact that he is taking no responsibility continues to, I think, highlight the fact that he is only looking to divide America. He's not looking to bring it together, right? This could have been a really great time for him to be strategic and be smart and admit what he did wrong, or just try to find some common ground. But he's so freaking stupid.
And the point I wanted to make, that I made earlier, I want to make again now, that despite Trump trying to say somehow mass shooters and mental illness are intertwined, are there some mass shooters or mentally ill? I have no doubt about it. But the reality is mental illness, people who have mental illnesses are not more likely to commit acts of violence. In fact, from the federal government's own website, the Trump's website, it says people with severe mental illnesses are 10 times more likely to be the victims of violent crime than the general population. So the smearing and making it mental illness is not only inexcusable. You're not only shaming a group of people who are struggling,
criminalizing them.
You're making it like they're more of someone who might be victimized because they are being victimized. So you or something, mentally ill, they might go on a shooting spree. We better do something about it. In fact, they're the ones who are more likely to be the victim of it. But facts don't matter to Trump. I mean, he won't talk about his rhetoric. His speech was meaningless. I just had Congressman Hank Johnson on, who was great. I never had him on before. He's from Georgia, an older African-American man. And I thought he was going to be more measured and stuff. I go, what do you think of the speech? He's like, anyone could read that. He goes, this guy, he's very clear about this. He goes, the racism manifests in El Paso. He goes, this is what the man is about. Doesn't matter what he reads. And I wonder, his speech today was for his base. It wasn't for America. He will not follow up on anything.
No, and I think what it sends to his base, that what they believe, what he's been talking is not wrong. And that they should continue to believe it, and that whatever he says and how he believes about Muslims and people at the border, it boggles my mind that one of his talking points was actually to draw awareness to the immigration issue. So at the same time, at the same time, he is trying to condemn what happened against these individuals. He's also like finding a way to blame the victim.
Well, tell me if this. I tweeted today because I'm simply tired of getting, if Trump supporters call me up and they'll say, and I mean now, like in the last few weeks, oh, he's not a racist. Look, if you're a Trump supporter and you still August 5th, 2019, do not believe the guy's a racist, don't waste my time. There's nothing I'm going to say because all you're going to do is talk away every single instance of racism and bigotry. And I have to be blunt. You are part of the problem. You are helping. You're enabling a racist and a bigot. And the worst part is they probably really don't believe he's a racist because there was a senator back chant. They did a poll of Americans. Mm-hmm. Nearly 70% of Democrats and independents thought it was racist. Only 20% of Republicans thought it was racist. So they really don't believe it. So,
I don't think they don't believe. I don't think that they're intentionally like they don't believe it. I think in order for them to say Trump is racist is to evaluate their own beliefs and then put themselves also in a category of having racial thoughts, racism, like for them actually being prejudiced towards other people. And so I think that's really the struggle with a lot of folks is that to put blame on Trump would also require them to put blame on themselves. And that's not going to happen. I want to go through the Democratic response and see what you thought. Joe Biden, I was talking to Chris Liu, who worked in the Obama administration. He was like the manager of the cabinet and deputy secretary of labor, and he was with Obama a long time. And he was saying nice things about Biden, but he was saying we were surprised Biden is not doing more press. But sure enough, he was doing an exclusive with Anderson Cooper. That's going to happen. But I'm glad he's out there because look, he is still leading by 16 points. If you are a betting person, anything can happen. If you're a betting person, he is the likely nominee, not presumptive, not by any stretch, but likely. I want him to be out there. I want him to be out there too, but in a private setting with Anderson Cooper is not what the people want. Like they want people to show up in their communities to have real conversation with folks. Like Beto was.
Well, Beto's from El Paso.
I know.
We'll play some of that. All right.
But I think that people want to be able to touch you.
Here is let's talk. I played this earlier. Here is Beto's Sunday being more reserved than today. We'll play it later. Here's clip number 1.
We've got to acknowledge the hatred, the open racism that we're seeing. There's an environment of it in the United States. We see it on Fox News. We see it on the internet. But we also see it from our commander-in-chief. And he is encouraging this. He doesn't just tolerate it. He encourages it. Calling Mexican immigrants rapists and criminals, warning of an invasion at our border, seeking to ban all people of one religion. Folks are responding to this. It doesn't just offend us. It encourages the kind of violence that we're seeing, including in my hometown of El Paso yesterday.
And I loved he drew a straight line between Trump and the violence in El Paso. And then today, reporters were asking him a question about, you think Trump's going to change and make a speech? And here's a quick thing. And Beto cursed. I wish the curse was in there. It was bleeped out, the one we pulled, clip 4.
He's been calling Mexican immigrants rapists and criminals. I don't know, like members of the press, what the Hold on a second. You know, it's these questions that you know the answers to. I mean, connect the dots about what he's been doing in this country. He's not tolerating racism. He's promoting racism. He's not tolerating violence. He's inciting racism and violence in this country.
And he was very animated in that clip. And it's a side of Beto that I think a lot of people thought we were going to see more of in the debates and stuff, where he's so... It's not a good format for the debates for him. I don't know if he's going to move up or not, but what was your reaction to Beto's?
Yeah, I don't think debate stage is a good format for most people. But what I will say about him is that I think because he has been out there touching people, hearing their stories, actually going to, ground zero, I think allow him to really see this issue face to face, which a lot of elected officials don't unless it directly happens to them. We saw that with Gabby Gifford. And so I think I'm extremely proud of him speaking out. Do I think this is going to make him go up in the polls? Debatable. That doesn't mean that he's not a good leader and that there's still not a place with him within the Democratic Party long term.
And then Cory Booker. Here was Cory yesterday on Meet the Press. Here's clip number 2, please.
I just want to speak with moral clarity right now because I worry that we're having conversations that don't just focus on an understanding that we are all responsible to each other in this country. We have moral bonds and fabric of our country. We have a president of the United States who is particularly responsible. I, in my faith, have this idea that you reap what you sow, and he is sowing seeds of hatred in our country, and this harvest of hate violence that we're seeing right now lies at his feet. When you have the president from the highest moral office in our land talking about invasions and infestations and shithole countries, the kind of things that come out of his mouth that so harm the moral fabric of our nation, he is responsible. He's responsible when he has taken no action whatsoever to even condemn white supremacy, even when his own FBI is talking about this being sourcing major parts of our problems. So we have a president who is responsible, who is not taking that responsibility and is doing nothing to address the deepening crisis in our country of this kind of violence.
And so that was yesterday. Today, Donald Trump he denounced white supremacy, folks. So we're done. I guess it's over here.
No.
What do you think of Cory Booker there? I'm putting all the B's together.
Booker.
Booker, Beto, Biden.
All the B's can take several seats. No. I really appreciate Booker's comment, especially because it's a stark contrast to a few months ago when he was asked a follow-up question on whether or not he thought Donald Trump was racist, and he said he didn't know what was in his heart. And so I do like the fact that people are being more blunt and honest about what we're seeing. I think that also, I know we're not talking about impeachment, but I think there is some correlation to this, right? Because while they're trying to figure out whether or not this is politically expedient for the Democratic Party to move forward with impeachment procedures, there's something to be said that in the time span in which he continues to be president, he is creating and developing an America that is actually not healthy. And we're going to see more instances where folks are going to use. I actually think that the second mass shooting happened as a react to someone's. It's almost like when you talk about suicide, right? Oftentimes the response is that more folks participate because they feel encouraged and they feel like their story is going to be blown up. I feel that same way about mass shootings. And so I think we are really setting the stage we're legitimizing everything that he does by not holding him accountable.
And it's interesting you mentioned impeachment. I was going to ask you later, but a caller earlier, I think it was James from Mississippi, said, how do the Democrats go around now and say this guy is a white supremacist, a white nationalist, he's the worst guy in the world, but we're not going to impeach him even though we have the opportunity to hold impeachment hearings? And he's on ours. He's not saying it like a concern. He's saying it like, he's like, how do we do that with a straight face? This is ridiculous. We have to have impeachment hearings. And he's absolutely right. And that's the exact point. Donald Trump, we have candidates, literally Beto O'Rourke calling him a white nationalist and a white supremacist and a racist. And that's not really grounds to impeach. But when you intertwine it with everything else,
it's like, how are we still here? Like, how are we still here? Where's the sense of urgency?
But don't you think you have to have the impeachment just to keep on the defensive the whole time? Just I don't care. Drag it up. I don't care. It's political. Do it for 10 months. Every day, let him whine about that. Because then he's not demonizing communities of color and inciting death.
But it also gives the America the full story of what's happening in contrast to what's happening every single day, right? What happened behind the scenes with potential collusion with Russia, what happened and potentially him trying to obstruct justice, in addition to him being extremely racist and toxic. I think this is a time where the Democratic Party, in its position, because we put them there, is to do their job and to actually give us all the facts. And everyone is standing still. Like it boggles my mind that we're more concerned with political correctness than we are about seeking real justice.
All right, let's take a break. We're going to come back. We're going to take some phone calls, right?
Hey, guys, call in.
Jamira Burley, we take some phone calls, just like when she's hosting the morning, and be right back with more of the Dean Obeidallah Show and some of your calls, 866-997-4748. Right after this, obviously, this is the issue. The horrific white supremacist terrorist attack and gun violence in our country. And is something going to change? Are we the change? We have to be the change, don't we? Didn't Barack Obama say?
He did. I mean,
we're the change you're looking for. We are the change. I say all the time, we are the leaders we are waiting for. Like we, the progressive base, we are the leaders we are waiting for. And we have to push the ones above us who are in the elite to do exactly what we want. Let's be right back.
The Dean Obeidallah Show.
Whoever's the next president, we should call them the 45th president of the United States. And this will go down as a dark time in America that we'll never refer to again.
SiriusXM Progress. to the Dean Obeidallah Show on SiriusXM Progress.
Welcome back to the Dean Obeidallah Show. We're live with Jamira Burley, activist, SiriusXM host at times. There's a lot of great stuff traveling the world. All right, let's take a couple of calls here. Here is our friend Frederick in Baltimore. Frederick, are you there, my friend?
Hey, yeah, Dean, how are you?
Fine. Get off the speakerphone. Come on, Frederick. Here we go. Frederick? Frederick.
Is that better?
I don't know. Are you on the speakerphone or not? Don't just say you're better and you're on the speakerphone.
I
Frederick.
can hear you a lot better on the speakerphone, but I'm off the speakerphone.
Okay, go ahead. So here with Jamira,
Okay.
what are your thoughts about what's going on here with the shooting, the white supremacy, and where we're heading as a country?
Okay. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
I have a couple of thoughts, but one is I've been listening a lot to the news today, mostly on talk radio with the Signorelli show. And I watched the news for a couple hours on TV, MSNBC. But from what I understand, and maybe you can help me out with this, that number one, there are a couple of bills in the House right now that have been passed that haven't been sent up to the Senate for Moscow Mitch to bring up for a vote. And I understand that there's been a Senate gun control bills that have well, not a couple, but at least one that has passed and has not, that Moscow Mitch has blocked.
Moscow Mitch blocks everything. I mean, we had Congressman Hank Johnson on earlier. H.R. 8 is the House version of a universal background check bill. Passed the House. Moscow Mitch won't bring it up for a vote. The election securing, yes, Democrats passed in the House, Securing Your Election Act, I think it's called. And there's a bipartisan bill in the Senate. Bipartisan. Trump and Moscow Mitch won't even let a vote on the bipartisan bill. So, not good. That's not good, Frederick. We got to get rid of Moscow Mitch. If you're in Kentucky, folks, we're going to do everything we can to defeat Moscow Mitch. We have to as a nation. And I bought a T-shirt. There's selling, Kentucky Democrats are selling shirts that say, just say "niet" to Moscow Mitch. I bought it. And when I get it in, I'm going to wear it on the show and people can see it on YouTube.
You need to share the link, man. You can't keep that to yourself.
No, I got it for like $25. I'm waiting for it to be shipped.
But Dean,
what about the white supremacy, Frederick? What about the gun? What do you think about that? Come on, talk to me.
The white supremacy?
What we're seeing on the border and Donald Trump's use of hateful language, and is it fair or unfair to tie him to it? What do you think?
Oh no, I think it is fair to tie him to what's happening. I mean, come on, it's almost common sense to me, but I guess to some Trump followers, it's not common sense. Of course, we should tie him to this language. I mean, it's the stats don't lie, right? They've been it's been increasing numbers showing that we have this avalanche of white supremacy happening at the same time when Mr. Trump is the president of the United States.
They love him. David Duke, I want to remind everyone all the time, right? David Duke said, "You are a traitor to your heritage if you do not support Donald Trump." David Duke said that, the Klan guy, and continued to defend him and praise him over and over. And Trump only denounced David Duke when shamed, not when asked by Jake Tapper during the campaign, that famous exchange. And to this day, David Duke still praises Donald Trump. And when the Senator back chant happened, white supremacists praised Donald Trump. And the ADL, Anti-Defamation League, all documented. And I tweeted out, if you're on Twitter, you'll see it.
Yes. I saw. I've been on Twitter today. I've been on Facebook a lot. I've read the message from President Obama, which I thought was pretty good.
Yeah.
That's
a leader.
That's how it's a president. That's how a former president is supposed to act. Try to draw the country together and shine a light on what the problem is. And let me just say something with Miss Burley or Jamira. Is it okay if I call you Jamira?
Yes, you can. Hi.
Hi. You said earlier that this post-racial America was something that I don't think you believed in. But let me just say this, and I'm not saying this to draw an argument out of you. I'm one of the people who was saying, even on social media back in 2010, and I was a neophyte then, in 2010, I was saying that, yeah, we're in a post-racial America. No, I didn't think it could get rid of all racism and all this stuff, but I thought that we were headed to a place that I didn't think that we were going to see in my lifetime. However, by 2010, with the midterms, and then 2011, I said, "Oh, wait a minute. Maybe we're not in a post-racial America." And then by 2014 and 2015, when Mitch McConnell chose to stop Merrick Garland's nominations from coming forward, I said, "That's it for me. I know we're nowhere near a post-racial America." And also Ferguson happened, and I'm saying, right. No, this is not a post-racial America. We are not there yet. Mm-hmm. And as you can see, the election of
Trump,
Mr. Trump,
all right,
which
Frederick.
I never referred to as president, by the way.
Right. No, I understand. All right, Frederick. So let me thank you, my friend, for the call. Thank you for your points. Let me ask Jamira here before we go to another break. Jamira, what did you think when after Dylan Roof did a horrific white supremacist terrorist attack, but then Mississippi, the South Carolina responded by getting rid of the Confederate flag as their state flag, that part of it. Did that mean, in your mind, did that say like maybe we are moving forward, or was that just like a meaningless blip?
I thought it was. I don't think it was meaningless, because I think when folks see examples of racism every single day, it actually does something to their psyche, especially if you are a person of color. But what I do think is that it wasn't a silver bullet, right? It didn't address the systematic problems within that particular community or within this country that actually systematically oppress and conduct racism activity against individuals of color, while also giving white folks the idea that they are somehow inherently better than those folks. So again, if we're going to address racism and real crime in America, it has to be a systematic approach that looks at the issue holistically, but also address that this is a problem that is not going to be solved with folks just dying off, and it's generational, right? It's ingrained.
I agree with you. Frederick, I'm going to let you go, my friend. We have to go to a break. And Jamira, this dream that many progressives had, we would call in and go like, these old bigots and stuff are going to die off. Look at the guys committing these horrific acts of white supremacy.
They're millennials.
They're 21, 22 years old. Yep. And it's not going to go away. It's something, look, it was with this country from the beginning. White supremacy, when you have slavery in a country and you have that original founding document, enshrine it and defend it, it continues through. I don't know, you need a transfusion on some level, like a transfusion of our system. I don't know if you can help, but we got to take a break. We'll come back with more with Jamira Burley right after this.
The Dean Obeidallah Show.
Voting is the most important civil right of our era because the right to vote preserves all other rights. It's not the Second Amendment. It's not guns. It's voting.
Sirius XM Progress. You're listening to the Dino Bidala Show, Sirius XM's Progress.
Welcome back, Dino Bidala. We're here with Jamira Burley. So, Jamira, Kevin McCarthy, who's the House GOP minority leader, figured it all out, what this shooting was about. Mm-hmm. Here he was on Sunday talk show on Fox News. Clip number 7, please.
The idea of these video games to dehumanize individuals, to have a game of shooting individuals and others, I've always felt that is a problem for future generations and others. We've watched from studies shown before of what it does to individuals. When you look at these photos of how it took place, you can see the actions within video games.
Are there video games that teach you to be a white supremacist and hate immigrants and to call immigrants invaders and send her back? There might be. I mean, there might actually be. But if he believes a kid playing a video game is going to make you commit an horrible act of violence, then he must believe the President of the United States in the highest office of the land with a drumbeat of 2.5 years of rapists and drug dealers and send them back. That's got to radicalize you as well, because it's got to be as powerful as a video game.
I mean, especially when it's a person who you admire and he's in a position of power. Like, of course, you would believe everything that he says is true. No video games do not create murderers. No video games do not print out guns for folks to be able to use in their mass shootings. Video games is not a unique pastime in America. Rap music is not a unique pastime in America. Like all of these bullshit excuses.
They didn't play rap music this
give
time.
Give it time.
Oh,
they actually only use that for black folks. So there's that. So these things don't inherently create angry people because it's not a unique thing to America. But only in America do folks resort to this type of violence because of their deep-rooted hate. Oftentimes, that is that is elevated by folks like Donald Trump.
And the reality is, first of all, folks, they have the same video games in other countries, and they don't have this violence because they don't have the same easy access to guns and AR-15s. And there's numerous articles today.
If it was a knife fight, someone could stop them a lot easier than,
Sure. And anyone on Twitter you probably saw trending is video games don't kill people today. And there's so many articles out today with studies showing, like criminologists who studied mass shootings said there was no connection. It's a myth. There's a connection between video games and people being killed. It is the quintessential fake news used to mislead people. And it's worse than normal fake news from the right. Mm-hmm. It's fake news that will make people not address the real causes of violence and allow gun violence to continue going undeterred and unobstructed and unchallenged, because we're not going to have the harder conversations about the various issues involved. I mean, I think the reason El Paso, to me, is so concerning is that there's a pattern. It's white supremacist terrorist attack. The Tree of Life synagogue killer in October who killed 11 Jewish Americans was a white supremacist. The person who went to a California synagogue also espoused anti-Semitic white supremacist views. And the list goes on, and you see this building. And I talked earlier, the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, said last year, of all the extremist murders on U.S. soil, the only thing they had in common, the 50, were right-wing. Now, not all white supremacists, a lot of them were, but right-wing extremism.
They were, and it's so crazy. I saw Rick Santorum, who's an asshole,
he is very much so.
Yeah, had the nerve to say, all we need is more guns. In America, there are literally more guns than there are humans. There is enough guns out there. Like, that is not the solution. Especially when you look at Texas, right? It is an open carry state. So how can you, as a individual shopping in the mall, differentiate a person who is carrying a gun, who is a good guy, who's just want to be an asshole to carry his gun openly, than someone who might shoot you? Why should that responsibility be on you?
And Rick Santorum is such an asshole. I mean, it's horribly anti-LGBT. Also, this is a guy who said that my family, my father, Palestinians... Wait,
specifically your father?
No, but Palestinians are an invented people, like Newt Gingrich, and that we don't exist, and we're made up.
So is white people. Kind of white people are an invented people.
That's absolutely right. That's a great... There is there's so many famous quotes on that.
Yeah.
Ta-Nehisi Coates has got a great... James Bolin might, but there's some other... On whiteness, the book, like the whole thing, whiteness in America is a social construct, they say. And I'm the living, breathing manifestation, because I was white before 9/11, and I'm really not white. So I still look white to people, but I don't live the white life.
I wish I could live a white life. I would be president.
Good. It wasn't great. It was like, it's so much better than being a minority. Like, because here's the thing. When these shootings happen, I instantly, like every Muslim in America, think, I hope the person who's committing this act is not a Muslim.
I say the same. We say the same thing in the black community.
Same thing. We're a minority, so that we instantly. It's not even a game. Like instantly, I'm like, oh God, what's their name? And I look at it, I'm like, all right, maybe. And every now and then, like, oh, it's not a Muslim name. Then you find out he converted. Like, oh, damn it. So no, so minorities, we all share that.
Yep.
White people, when I was white, that never went through my head. A horrible gunman. That's terrible. Oh, they caught him. Good.
Because white people are not responsible for every white person's actions versus black people and brown people are literally blamed for every actions of every person of color. And then you're just like, what? I don't even know him.
Not only are we not blamed, but right-wingers use the worst examples of our communities to define all of us. They do it all the time. And then they try to implement policy based on that. Think about it. Donald Trump, San Bernardino, 14 people killed in a shooting in 2015.
Yeah.
14 people killed by a Muslim husband and wife. He calls days later for a total ban on 1 billion Muslims from this country. Literally, folks, that's not an exaggeration. 1 billion. Today, 20 Americans, now 22, killed by a white supremacist spouting the same rhetoric he does, and calls for this kind of ambiguous attempt on reducing gun violence. Instead of calling for a total ban on white people, young white people buying a gun, that would have been the comparable thing.
Exactly.
To go, we have to call a ban on all young white men buying any weapons until we can figure out what the hell is going on. That would have been the mirrored response, but it's not. It's nuance, because when it comes to minorities, you can do broad brush because you don't have to pay a price for it. That's the world I live in, you live in, brown people live in, and that's all right. Let's take a call. Here's Fernando from Texas. Let's get a call here. How are you, Fernando?
Oh, my MBFF. Salam alaikum. How are you?
Alaikum salam. Nice to hear from you, my friend. He's got some insight here to talk to me about Texas. What's going on?
Well, I live in San Antonio now. I came up here 29 years ago with the Army, but I was born and raised in El Paso, and I worked at that mall, at Chula Vista Mall, as a teen. So I'm familiar with the area very well. And sadly, as of the tragedy of Saturday wasn't bad enough, a classmate of mine from high school was one of the 22 dead.
I'm sorry. Sorry to hear that.
Now, the thing is, this kid came down from Dallas, went to Frisco High School, which is up the street from where my sister lives up in Dallas. It's about a 10-hour drive. So this isn't. He didn't just snap. This is all very premeditated. Going down to El Paso, and he was freaking out because of the browning of Texas. Well, that's just too goddamn bad, because according to demographers, by 2025, that's only 6 years from now, Texas will be a minority-majority state. We are here, and we're not going anywhere. And in fact, we've been here since at least 1598. April 30th, 1598. We had Europeans from Spain mixing with the natives, and we have the mestizos. We've been here since 1598.
Yeah, we talk about who used to own Texas right before.
Exactly, and there's a saying back home in El Paso: we didn't jump the border; the border jumped us. We've been there all along, and we're not going anywhere. And so you were just talking about all these excuses we make for these crazed killers
when they're white. When they're white,
exactly. When they're white, isn't this the party of personal responsibility?
I know, in Law and Order.
Very funny. Good point. Yep.
It makes no sense, and nobody is. Thank God, Beto finally called a spade a spade. I just can't believe that the media is still 2.5 years later still allowing Trump to get away with his bullshit and with his lies, with his hateful rhetoric. Where is our generation's Joseph Welch? Who is going to finally stand up and tell Trump, at long last, have you no decency left?
And Fernando, that's got to be said to. I'll be blunt. That's got to be said to the heads of MSNBC and CNN. That's who's got to be said to, because Fox News will never stop. But if MS and I think that MS is overall they do a good job, but still, there are times I'm just like, what are you doing? And CNN even more so. And I write for CNN, and I get so frustrated. I'm like, you can be better than this. You don't need the ratings that desperately, but they do, because they're businesses. So we need Joseph Welch of today's day to go to the head of CNN and MS and make that plea. Like, look, you're going to be judged by history of even subtly helping a horrific person potentially win re-election, because they helped him win. Even indirectly, they helped him win because he was good for ratings.
But here's the other thing. I understand it's a business, and a train wreck will attract a lot of attention. But on the flip side, can you imagine how many people would tune in to watch Trump get grilled and to watch Trump just freak out and to watch Trump start yelling and screaming at you're rude. You know, I can't believe how many people would watch. If they were to have a pay-per-view of a press conference where reporters were to really challenge Trump, we could pay off the national debt.
That'd be remarkable. Some reporters do challenge him, but you know, Trump doesn't let you do follow-ups and yells, sit down, shut up, sit down. The media itself collectively, except for the right-wing ones, have to get together and unify to make a difference on that. But Fernando, I'm sorry about your friend, and you're right. We're not going anywhere. And these bigots, these racists are going to rise up. They're going to keep fighting us. And I hope it doesn't get more violent, but I don't want to say it's going to, but I want people to be prepared that it could get more violent. And Jamira, what do you think?
Yep.
Do you think we're going to see between now and November 3rd, 2020?
Yeah, I think especially if the polls continue to reflect the fact that folks are staring away from Donald Trump, I think it's only going to excite more people, particularly Donald Trump's like most loyal base, to respond in violence. I do.
It's heartbreaking.
He wants them to do that.
I don't know. I just wonder what they're thinking. These white people who are like this guy who's freaking out because Texas is turning brown.
He's
I mean, I don't know.
21 years old. He's like 21. I mean, he sounded
old.
like a 75-year-old guy who's been, I can't believe it. He used to be all white. Look where it is. You're 21.
No,
I mean,
but
I don't know.
Move to Utah. It's all white people. I mean, do that. If that's bothering, have your white state. The guy dreamed of it. Go to Utah. It's overwhelmingly white. Live your life. Become a Mormon maybe. They're really good people. LDS Church. I know many Mormons. They're great people. And go over there. But killing people, and let's be honest, if you look at his words, you look at the Tree of Life Synagogue, and I read it earlier, it's all about like, if no one's going to do this, I have to. They really believe they're going to cause a race war. People are going to rise up and be inspired by them to kill other brown and black people.
Yeah, gotta love these white saviors, saving us all from, America becoming more brown.
It's not happening.
Jesus.
All right, Fernando, thank you for the call again. Sorry about your friend, my friend.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, we'll talk to you soon.
Take care. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll take some more calls with our friend Jamira Burley right after this.
Dean Obadala Show on Sirius XM Progress 127. The Dean Obadala Show on Sirius XM Progress 127.
Earlier in the show about these white supremacists, you have to understand, like Dylan Roof, I was looking at his words today because I was writing about it, and he wants a race war. They would demonize Black Lives Matters. I mean, you literally had Rudy Giuliani on Fox and Friends and CBS calling them racist.
Yeah.
And he was a Trump surrogate, and I don't know why people didn't make more of it. And he would quote one thing, that they were yelling pigs in a blanket, and like cook him and all that kind of stuff. You mad? But I'm going to wait. But the white supremacists, in a way, inspiring more of the insurgents to come up. So some white people right now who might not be on board, their dream is if a brown or black person responds, they can use that to say, look, this is what they're really about. You got to arm yourself. That's my fear. That's that we could get to this point in the next year.
Yeah, and if we also look at it too, the vast majority of folks who are buying guns legally are white folks, and they are preparing their children very early to learn how to shoot a gun and like hold a gun. We're in. I think it's only going to get worse before it gets better, especially if the Democratic Party does not hold him accountable and not make a statement with their actions to actually show these are tolerance. And I think too many Americans are dealing with a deep-seated fear that they can be next, that nowhere is safe.
That's not good.
No, it's we're all in post-traumatic stress disorder. We're all dealing with it.
Were you here or no? That was with Chris was here. A gentleman called up. He goes, he's 50, he's white, and he goes, I'm afraid. He goes, think about that. I'm afraid. Think about what minorities must feel. And he's like, I'm just being honest. I'm 50 and I'm afraid, and I'm a white guy. And
I mean, after I said on MSNBC a year ago that white men were I knew when I made it to Breitbart that I'm there.
Boom.
But yeah, I got so much hate, and it boggles my mind with things people will say through anonymity. But also, like, that was me saying something I thought was very subtle in a time where Trump wasn't being as racist and as divisive. Imagine how folks are going to respond now where they feel like they're under attack.
It's the voices, like your comments others have made, articles I've written that people, I'm not telling you to look back. I'm not Nostradamus. I'm just saying when I look back at stuff I wrote in 2016 and 15 about Trump and saying the threat he is to this country, I knew it when he called for a total ban on Muslims. I'm like, this is not, even if it doesn't happen, for a leading candidate for office, a presidential, at the time, the leader, to say that, I'm like, everyone should be afraid. I said, we don't know where we're going as a nation. And I remember going on CNN with Don Lemon, some Republican going, you're overblown about this. I'm like, no, this is the worst thing I've ever heard in my life. And if a guy would say this, he'll say anything about any community. And I was right, not because I'm a genius, but I have a little understanding of people.
Yeah.
That's what it was about. So, Jamira, it was nice chatting with you, my friend. Where people follow you if they want to get more of your insight, your nuggets, and your taunts of white men?
My website is www.jamiraburley.com. I'm on Instagram and Twitter at Jamira Burley.
Jamira, thank you, my friend. Tomorrow night, folks, we're gonna I'm sure tackle this even more. We'll take more calls tomorrow night. I'm sorry we couldn't get to everyone tonight. Noah's very passionate. We had a lot of great guests, and I'm on Twitter at Dean Obadala, Facebook.com/Dean of Radio. Hope you check out my news article for CNN that just went up a short time ago at Dean of Radio. Or drop me an email. I love hearing from people. I always try to get back to you. Sincerely, Dean@deanofradio.com. Be back tomorrow. All new show right here, SiriusXM Progress 127.